Hi guys, so today we're going to go over the L-sit, how to get there and why you should. The first step is to assess where you are. What I always recommend is sit tall and try and get that L-sit without holding yourself up. It might be made a little bit easier by pointing your toes. This can take the pressure off the hamstrings. An easy way to test if the hamstrings are the limiting factor is to sit upright, point your toes and try and pike forward, meaning leaning forward. You'll notice that when I point my toes, I can get an awful lot lower than if my toes are facing upwards. This is because the hamstring heads cross over the knee and the hip. So if I'm flexing at the hip and I'm flexing at the ankle, it's going to cause tightening of the hamstrings from two joints. Once we've ruled out that hamstrings are not the important factor, leg raises are going to be important. This is where you create global tension and you hold a leg raise for 5 seconds. This is going to increase your strength in the hip flexor. This is normally the limiting factor for anybody doing the L-sit. It's really important that your back does not move. If I start wobbling forward and backwards, it makes things way too easy. If it's too easy to sit upright, you're going to increase the lean forward, but keep that back where it is. Don't change it. And just by making it harder from leaning forward, we can lean back and make it a little bit easier. Remember, if you go to my isometric video, which I released last week, you're going to see that it's important to hold for 5 seconds. Between 3 and 10 seconds is optimal. We're going to take the exact same principle for this one. I'm afraid cramping is just part of the game, but if it's too much to handle, you can always regress it a little bit further by raising your hips. Here I'm just using a little stool and I'm completing the exact same movement. Notice my back does not change angle. I'm just lifting my feet up and down, pointing my toes to minimize hamstring effect. People always use the excuse that my arms just aren't long enough. Well, they are long enough, and all you have to do is change your hip angle and depress your shoulders. So just what we're looking at here is pushing my shoulders down away from my ears. I'm practicing by moving my hips from different angles to see how it feels to depress my shoulders regardless of where my hips are. It's amazing how fast your arms can grow when you push them further away from your ears. If you're still really struggling with this and you cannot clear your hands with your hips, I want you to elevate your hands by putting them in either pillows or parallettes. If you're finding it really uncomfortable to point your fingers forwards, you can just switch them to the sides. It's not really that important. The important thing is that I'm engaging my lats and pushing my shoulders away. This simple rock technique where I'm rocking on my heels is stretching my hamstrings a little bit while teaching my hips that they can get past the gap between basically my ass and the floor. The great thing about this movement is it's teaching my core that it can compress my knees tighter to my chest, which is really important for the L-sit. This is just a quick combination of bringing it all together. So I'm doing my hip elevations, my stretches, and my hip pull-throughs. All leads you to the L-sit. I just mentioned compression earlier. You should always be working to improve your compression. And what I mean by that is pulling your hips further back. This again makes your arms a little bit longer, or at least it looks like it. Over time, elevating your hips in this way is going to really strengthen up the core and remind you of the hip positions available when you're doing the L-sit. At the start, everybody finds it hard to hold their legs up, and it's really boring just lifting your legs straight up and down and then doing compression work. So you can add in some tucked holds and extend one leg at a time. Honestly, I don't think this is the best technique, but this is pretty much the route I took. Leg raises with a slight forward lean followed by alternating legs. Eventually, over time, I was able to do the full hold. If you just do 2 movements to get there, it's the hip pull through, so that type of compression one I showed you at the start, as well as the leg raises. If you skip these 2, you're going to take an awful lot longer to get there. Anyway, I hope you found this video useful. This is basically the route I took to get to the L-sit, and I'm pretty sure it's going to help you too. I've taught loads of people to get here with this method, so give it a try and let me know down below how it goes.